So there's a thought that's been on my mind recently. Have you ever wondered how different generations experience nostalgia? It might seem like a simple concept, right? Everyone misses the past in their own way. But lately I've been thinking, Generation X, millennials, and the oldest of Gen Z might actually be the last ones to experience nostalgia the way it's always been understood. For those of you who don't know me, I'm skpacman. Nostalgia is a huge part of my life and my channel. To me, nostalgia is like a series of checkboxes, a way to look back and say, yeah, I lived through that. Everything I'm into, like gaming, the shows I watch, the things that I collect, connects to those checkboxes, to those moments that feel like they shaped who I am. And being nostalgic and collecting all these old consoles that I had as a kid, it's not even about resisting new tech, it's that a lot of what I have already does the job, even if a little slower. There are two moments in my recent memory that defined the before and after feeling for me of nostalgia. One was in college when I downloaded my first online game on Steam. It was this newfangled digital game store. It was like a light switch was switched in my brain to a whole new world where games were just a click away. It made me feel like the days of walking into a store to search through their piles of discs and cartridges was a far distant memory, when actually I had just done that very shopping trip days before. The second one was about 4 years later when I got my first smartphone. I remember an essay my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife of 20 years, wrote in high school about a device that could do it all. The phone, music, internet, camera, video camera, portable hard drive, you name it, it had it. Nobody believed it would happen in our lifetime. Mind you, this essay was written in 2002, a full 3 years before smartphones were released to the public, or at least popularized. Everyone in her psychology class thought she was nuts. Now, fast forward to 2011, holding that smartphone felt like watching that vision come true. Those moments, they hit different, like I was stepping from one world to another. For Gen X and millennials, especially the gamers, nostalgia isn't just about childhood. There's a clear divide between these two worlds, one before the internet, before constant connectivity, and one after, where it feels like our brains are kind of hardwired into a matrix. But think about it. Gen Xers and us millennials grew up riding bikes until streetlights came on, dealing with dial-up internet and even those clunky CRT monitors. There was a simplicity there, a freedom. When we look back, we're not just reminiscing about our childhoods, we're remembering a world that actually felt different. But here's the kicker for us millennials. We're a transitional generation. We got a real taste of analog life, but then grew up right alongside the digital boom. Napster, MySpace, the first wave of social media, and the birth of online gaming all hit in our formative years. Our nostalgia is layered. We can look back at the before and after, and the difference is massive. A time when nobody was glued to their phones or living for online validation, people actually talked to each other in person and planned things. Every new tech leap felt like stepping into the future. And that's part of what Bo Burnham had been warning us about for years. In his Netflix special Inside, he says, maybe allowing giant digital media corporations to exploit the neurochemical drama of our children for profit, maybe that was a bad call by us. Maybe the flattening of the entire subjective human experience into a lifeless exchange of value that benefits nobody except for a handful of bug-eyed salamanders in Silicon Valley. Maybe that as a way of life forever? Maybe that's not good. It's almost as if our nostalgia today is an escape from that very flattening he's talking about. A longing for a time when life wasn't constantly filtered and curated for us. By now, in 2024, Gen Z, or at least the oldest of Gen Z, would be about the 22 to 27-year-old range. They saw a sliver of that freedom. They might remember a time before cell phones were in every hand, but by the time they really got into it, social media was already there, just not as pervasive and intense as it is now. For them, there is nostalgia, but it's a little different, more like a personal journey through early digital platforms. They're nostalgic for things like the early days of Minecraft or the start of YouTube gaming content. But here's where things shift. The younger side of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, those under the age of 20, They were born into a fully digital world, a world where social media is omnipresent and everything is meticulously curated by algorithms. For them, everything is online, always accessible, and always has been. They don't have that same before and after because for them, it's always been this continuous stream. It's almost like that one episode of Doctor Who where the Doctor returns to Satellite 5 and realizes it's like humanity's being held back.
What's going on?
It's not just this space station, it's the whole attitude, it's the way people think. The great and bountiful human empire's stunted, something's holding it back.
And how would you know?
Trust me, humanity's been set back about 90 years.
Once we hit the smartphone era, that's what it started to feel like. The leaps we saw with the internet, home computers, even early smartphones slowed down. Sure, we've had upgrades, better cameras, faster connections, but they've been more incremental and not revolutionary. And now, it's like we're standing at a crossroads, waiting for what's next. Blockchain, AI, the next big thing, are all being pitched as game changers, but none of it feels like the clear breakout tech we had before. It's anticipation without direction, a future we know is coming, but without a map for where we're headed. As technology keeps advancing, culture sometimes feels like it's stalled, reusing the same ideas and aesthetics. So if younger generations end up nostalgic for anything, it might just be the same nostalgia millennials and Gen X have, only recycled, a step removed. So will they even feel nostalgia the same way? Or will it be more like recognition of patterns and trends rather than that classic sense of longing for a simpler time? They might remember trends like they liked on TikTok or specific seasons in games like Fortnite and Roblox instead of distinctive shifts between ways of living. And gaming is where this divide is fascinating. For Gen X and millennials, they remember entire gaming consoles, unforgettable eras. Games were something you sought out and discovered, and they stuck with you. For the oldest of Gen Z, there's some of that too, but it's mixed with early online multiplayer, Club Penguin, early days of Call of Duty, Xbox Live. And Gen Alpha, gaming is a social ecosystem, not a single experience. They might remember specific events and games or updates, but they won't have that experience of unboxing a game, loading it up, and knowing it'll always be that exact same version. Instead, it might be more like, remember that viral TikTok dance everyone was doing, or remember when that streamer broke records with their charity live stream. They might recall trending social media challenges or specific moments in ongoing online platforms like Among Us or Genshin Impact, rather than distinctive shifts between ways of living. It's a different kind of memory, different kind of nostalgia. And maybe it'll become its own form of nostalgia. It might lack that classic feeling of wishing to go back to a simpler time, because for them, there isn't really a simpler time to go back to. Their lives have always been woven into this vast digital net that's constantly changing and pulling them forward. So it's wild to consider that millennials and older Gen Z might be the last to feel that old school nostalgia. And for Gen Alpha and beyond, they might have something totally different. A nostalgia for trends, for updates, for seasons, limited events. Whether that's good or bad is a whole other question. So what do you think? What's your experience? Do you feel that divide? Or is nostalgia something everyone can experience the same way, no matter when they grew up? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think of this fascinating little thought I had. Thank you for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. I'm working really hard on these video essays and would like to know if you're enjoying them too. And as always, I'll see you next time.